My son threw my belongings out their second-floor window. I watched from below as my clothes, my tools, and my late wife Margaret's framed wedding photos tumbled onto the driveway. Jason was laughing. His wife Brittany held up her phone, live streaming it all to 1.9 million TikTok followers. "Say goodbye to the freeloader," she shouted into the camera. I gathered my things calmly, folded each shirt, picked up every scattered photo of Margaret with gentle hands. My son and his wife watched from above, expecting me to beg, to argue, to make a scene for their content. Instead, I smiled slightly and pulled out my phone. Made one call. "Michael," I said quietly. "It's James. We need to talk." You'll never guess who picked up that call. Let me back up. I'm James Wilson, 62 years old, retired contractor. For the past 3 years since my wife Margaret passed, I've been living quietly in the guest house on what my son Jason thinks is his property here in Cedar Ridge Development, Austin, Texas. Jason is 29. His wife Brittany is 26. They're lifestyle influencers who run a TikTok account called At Life with the Taylors. 847,000 followers. Their content? Showing off their luxury lifestyle in what they call their dream home mansion. The main house is beautiful, I'll give them that. 4,500 square feet. Hardwood floors throughout. Granite countertops in the kitchen. Custom cabinets. Professional lighting for their videos. What they don't mention to their followers is that I built most of those custom features. The kitchen island where Brittany films her morning routine, I designed that. The built-in entertainment center where Jason shows off his sneaker collection, my hands cut every piece of trim. But over the past year, they've grown increasingly embarrassed by my presence. In their early videos, I was Grandpa Jim, a quirky addition to their content. Brittany would film me washing dishes or tending the small garden behind the guest house, adding captions like, "Goals still working hard at 62. Then the tone shifted. I became the handyman who won't leave. They'd film me fixing a leaky faucet and make jokes about some people never knowing when to move on. When I'd walk past during their outdoor filming sessions, they'd stop recording and wait for me to disappear. 3 months ago, Brittany started a series called Boundaries with Family. Every episode was basically her complaining about having to share space with someone who doesn't understand modern living. She never said my name, but she'd film the guest house while talking about people who take advantage of family generosity. The comments from their followers were brutal. "Just kick him out already. Your house, your rules. He's clearly jealous of your success." Last month, things escalated. Jason cornered me after I finished replacing some rotted deck boards. Work they'd requested, by the way. "Dad," he said, not looking me in the eye, "we need to talk about your living situation." I'm listening. Brittany and I are thinking about expanding, maybe converting the guest house into a creator space. You know, somewhere we can film without worrying about interruptions. I set down my tools. "This has been my home for 3 years, son." "I know, and we appreciate everything you've done. But it's time to think about your next chapter. Maybe a nice senior community. We could help with the deposit." A senior community. My wife and I had bought this land together in 2015. We'd planned to build our retirement home here. After she died, I couldn't bear to stay in our old house, so I moved to the property and built the guest house with my own hands while Jason and Brittany were still living in a cramped apartment downtown. But I didn't say any of that. I just nodded and went back to work. That's when the real campaign began. Brittany started filming day-in-the-life videos that always seemed to capture me in the background, sweeping the walkway, checking the mail, sitting on my small porch in the evening. She'd add captions like, "When your space isn't really your own," or "Counting down to freedom." Their followers ate it up. The videos got hundreds of thousands of views. Comments poured in with advice about setting boundaries with difficult family members and not enabling dependent behavior. 2 weeks ago, Jason brought me an official-looking document, a deed transfer. "We had this drawn up," he said. "It's for the guest house. We want to sign it over to you. Make it official." I read through it carefully. It was a quitclaim deed for Lot 7, the guest house, and about a quarter acre around it. According to the paperwork, this tiny plot was valued at $240,000. "That's generous," I said. "There's just one condition. You'd need to handle all the utilities, maintenance, property taxes, everything." Brittany calculated it's about $1,800 a month total. $1,800 a month on my contractor's pension and Social Security. They knew I couldn't afford that. "I need time to think about it." "Of course, take your time. But Dad? Jason's voice got softer, more manipulative. This could be really good for everyone. You'd have your independence, and we'd have our creative space. Win-win, right? That night, I called my brother Michael for the first time in 2 years. We'd had a falling out after Margaret's funeral. Nothing serious, just family business stuff. I'd wanted to live independently, prove I could handle things on my own. James? Michael sounded surprised. Everything okay? I'm fine. I wanted to hear your voice. We talked for an hour. I didn't mention Jason or the deed or any of it. Just caught up, talked about Margaret, about work, about life. After we hung up, I sat on my porch and looked at the main house. Lights blazing in every window. Jason and Brittany filming some late-night content, probably. Living their best life in their dream home. What's my real place in the world? The breaking point came last Thursday, September 12th, at exactly 2:47 p.m. I know the exact time because Brittany was live streaming. I was in the kitchen of the main house. They'd given me a key years ago, washing the dishes they'd left from their morning smoothie filming session. It's something I'd always done. A small way to help out. Brittany walked in with her phone already recording. Hey, Taylor family. Quick life update while I clean up after our amazing breakfast content. She positioned the camera to catch me at the sink, my back turned, in my worn jeans and old flannel shirt. So, some of you have been asking about our living situation, she said, her voice taking on that fake sweet tone she used for serious topics. And I think it's time to be totally honest about boundaries and family dynamics. I kept washing dishes, trying to stay out of frame. Sometimes in life, you have family members who mistake kindness for weakness, who think that because you're generous, you owe them something permanent. The water was running, but I could hear every word. Her 12,000 live viewers could too. The number kept climbing in real time. Like, we've been super generous letting certain people stay on our property, rent-free, for years. But some people never learn their place in the world. I turned off the water, and it's gotten to the point where it's affecting our content, our growth, our mental health. We're trying to build something beautiful here, and there's this constant energy of entitlement and dependency. She moved closer, angling the camera to catch both of us in frame. Some people think they can just exist in other people's spaces forever, like the world owes them something because they're old or because they've had some hard times. The dish towel in my hands was perfectly still. I didn't turn around. But here's the thing, Taylor family, and this is a life lesson for all of you. You cannot enable people who refuse to help themselves, even if they're family, especially if they're family. Brittany walked right up behind me. I could see her reflection in the window above the sink. Phone held high, that practiced smile, ring light casting her in perfect illumination. Say hi to the Taylor family, Jim. I turned around slowly, looked directly into her camera. 12,400 live viewers watching. Hello, I said simply. Jim's been staying in our guest house for a while now, Brittany continued, like I wasn't even there. But we're finally ready to reclaim our space and set some healthy boundaries. A commenter asked, why doesn't he just get his own place? Brittany read it aloud. Great question. Jim, why don't you tell everyone why you can't seem to get your own place? The silence stretched. Viewers were typing furiously. The comment count kept climbing. I have my own place, I said quietly. Well, technically you're living in our guest house, on our property, using our utilities. I built this kitchen, I said, still calm. Those cabinets, that island where you film every morning. Brittany laughed. The kind of laugh that's meant to make someone seem ridiculous. Right, but that was like volunteer work. Nobody asked you to do that. Jason asked me. Okay, but that doesn't mean we owe you free housing forever. Another comment. How much rent does he pay? 0, Brittany said immediately. Absolutely 0. Meanwhile, we're carrying all the costs of this property, all the maintenance, everything. It's honestly exhausting. I set the dish towel down, folded it neatly. I've paid for utilities. I've maintained the grounds. I've fixed everything that's broken in this house for 3 years. Which is super appreciated. But Jim, you have to understand, we're trying to build a business here, a brand, and having someone around who's stuck in like Depression-era mindset, it's not good for our image. The comment section exploded. I couldn't read them all, but I caught fragments. Ungrateful old man. Kick him out. Free housing for years, but also, this seems cruel. He built the kitchen? Where's his wife? Brittany saw those too. Some of you are asking about Jim's wife. She passed away, which is really sad. But that was 3 years ago. At some point, you have to stop using grief as an excuse and start taking responsibility for your own life. Using grief as an excuse. Something shifted inside me. Some final thread of family loyalty snapped clean. I think, I said very quietly, you might want to be careful about saying things you can't take back. Brittany's smile faltered for just a second. Then she recovered, turning back to the camera. See what I mean? This is exactly the kind of passive-aggressive behavior we've been dealing with, making vague threats instead of just being grateful. I'm not making threats, I said. I'm giving advice. Advice. Some people mistake kindness for weakness, I said, looking directly into her camera. They shouldn't. Brittany ended the live stream. The video had been live for 18 minutes. Peak viewership. 14,700 concurrent viewers. By evening, clips of it were circulating on Twitter, Reddit, Instagram. Watch this entitled boomer get called out for living rent-free. Influencer destroys freeloader family member. This is how you set boundaries with toxic relatives. The clips went viral. The hashtag #freeloadergrandpa started trending. Jason came to see me that night, found me sitting on my porch reading. Dad, about what happened today. Which part? I asked, not looking up from my book. Brittany she was making content. You know how she gets when she's live streaming. She didn't mean most of that stuff. Yes, she did. Look, maybe we can work something out about the guest house situation. Maybe we were being too hasty. I closed my book. Jason, do you know what your mother's last words to me were? He shifted uncomfortably. Dad, I don't think... She said, take care of our family. Not just you, our family. I know, but I've been trying to do that for 3 years. But I think I've been confused about who our family actually is. I stood up, went inside, and locked the door. The next morning, I made my decision. Friday morning, September 13th, I called Michael. I hadn't planned what to say. Just dialed his number while my coffee was still hot and the morning was still quiet. James? He picked up on the second ring. 2 calls in 1 week. Either you're dying or you need help. Maybe both, I said. Michael Wilson, my older brother by 4 years, CEO of Wilson Properties Group. We'd grown up in the same small house in East Austin, sharing a bedroom until we were teenagers. He'd always been the ambitious one, worked his way through UT Business School, started flipping houses while I was learning carpentry. Now he owned properties across 12 states. What's going on? I told him everything. The guest house, the deed, the live stream, the hashtag, all of it. Michael listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long pause. James, what's your address? 1247 Cedar Ridge Drive. Why? Another pause. Longer this time. Jesus Christ, James. That's the Cedar Ridge development. Yeah, so? I bought that development in 2018, all 38 acres. We've been getting monthly reports from property management about an occupied guest house, but I never thought to ask who was living there. The coffee cup felt suddenly heavy in my hands. You own this place? The whole development. 12 luxury homes, community center, walking trails. We bought it for $14.8 million as a long-term investment. The plan was always to eventually develop it into senior living. I walked to my window, looked out at the main house where Jason and Brittany were probably still sleeping. Michael, the deed Jason showed me, for the guest house. It says it's worth $240,000. For a quarter acre in Cedar Ridge? That's about right. But James, that deed wouldn't be valid anyway. Nobody can sell property they don't own. Jason thinks he owns the main house. No. Wilson Properties Group owns everything. If Jason has some kind of deed, it's either fake or for something else entirely. I set down my coffee. What do you mean, something else? Send me a photo of that deed, right now. I dug the document out of my kitchen drawer, photographed it, texted it over. Michael called back 2 minutes later. Okay, this is interesting. This deed is for Lot 7 only. That's the guest house plot. It's signed by Harold and Martha Wilson. Those are Jason's grandparents, my wife's parents. Right, but James, look at the date. This deed is from 2019. Harold and Martha sold Jason that tiny lot for $75,000. Probably helped him get started. Figured he'd build something small. But Jason thinks he owns the main house. The main house is on lots 1 through 6. That's Wilson Properties Group land. It sounds like Jason built on our property without permission. The room started spinning slightly. Michael, I need to tell you something else. I built most of the custom work in that house. The kitchen, the built-ins, the deck. Jason asked me to do it. Said it was for the family property. How much work are we talking about? 3 years' worth. Probably $60,000 in labor and materials. I never charged him. Do you have receipts, photos, documentation? Everything. I keep detailed records. Michael was quiet for a long moment. James, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I need a direct answer. Do you want my help with this situation? I thought about Brittany's live stream, about the hashtag, about Jason's condescending offer to help with the deposit for a senior community, about Margaret's last words, take care of our family. Yes, I said, I want your help. Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to pack a bag, light packing, just essentials. I'm sending a team to handle this. What kind of team? Legal team. Property management team. People who handle situations like this professionally. Michael, I don't want you to do anything illegal. James. His voice was gentle but firm. Everything I'm going to do is completely legal. Jason and Brittany are living on property they don't own, without a lease, without permission. They've been harassing the legal occupant, that's you, and they've made improvements to property that belongs to Wilson Properties Group without authorization. What about Jason? He's still my son. And you're still my brother. But some lessons can only be learned the hard way. I walked outside, looked at the main house one more time. Brittany was on the deck, setting up for a morning smoothie video, ring light perfectly positioned, phone propped on a tripod, everything staged for maximum engagement. When? I asked. Monday morning, 9 a.m., be ready. I hung up and went back inside to pack. As I folded my clothes, I could hear Brittany through the open window, talking to her camera about manifesting abundance and releasing toxic energy from your space. She had no idea how much toxic energy was about to be released. Monday morning, September 16th, 9:03 a.m. I was sitting on my porch with a cup of coffee watching Jason and Brittany set up for their New Week, New Energy live stream on the main house deck. They'd been promoting it all weekend, some big announcement about their next chapter and claiming their space. Brittany was wearing a white sundress that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. Jason had on his successful entrepreneur outfit, button-down shirt, perfectly styled hair, that practiced smile he'd learned from watching other influencers. Their ring lights were positioned just right. The main house looked stunning in the background. Perfect content. Then I heard the vehicles. 3 black Cadillac Escalades coming up Cedar Ridge Drive. Moving slow, deliberate. The kind of convoy that means serious business. Brittany noticed them first. Jason, are you expecting someone? The SUVs parked in perfect formation across the driveway. 6 people stepped out. 3 women, 3 men, all in dark suits, all carrying leather portfolios. The leader was a woman in her 50s, silver hair pulled back, the kind of confidence that comes from handling million-dollar transactions. She walked directly to the deck where Jason and Brittany were filming. Jason Wilson. Yeah? Can I help you? I'm Victoria Anderson from Anderson & Associates. We represent Wilson Properties Group. Are you currently live streaming? Brittany held up her phone. This is our private property. You're trespassing. Victoria smiled. Not a friendly smile. Actually, this is property owned by Wilson Properties Group. You're the ones trespassing. She opened her portfolio, pulled out a thick document. This is an official 30-day notice to vacate. You're currently occupying 1247 Cedar Ridge Drive without authorization, without a lease, and without permission from the legal owner. Jason's face went white. That's impossible. I have the deed. This is my house. Sir, Wilson Properties Group purchased this entire development in March 2018 for $14.8 million. That includes lots 1 through 6, where the main residence is located. Brittany was still filming, but her hands were shaking. This is insane. We've lived here for 3 years. We've put thousands of dollars into this place. According to our records, Victoria continued calmly, you've made unauthorized improvements to property you don't own. That's a separate legal issue we'll be addressing. Another lawyer stepped forward. Any improvements made to the property without written permission from Wilson Properties Group are considered gifts to the property owner and cannot be recovered. Jason found his voice. Wait, voice. My dad lives in the guest house. He's been here forever. This has to be some kind of mistake. Mr. James Wilson has been granted lifetime residence rights by the property owner, Victoria said. However, due to documented harassment and attempted illegal eviction by current occupants, those arrangements are being modified. She handed Jason another document. This is a formal complaint regarding elder abuse, harassment, and attempted fraud. Brittany's live stream was capturing everything. The comment section was exploding. Viewers were screen recording frantically. "This is a setup," Brittany shouted into her phone. "This is exactly what we were talking about. Some people will do anything to avoid taking responsibility." Victoria turned to look directly at Brittany's camera. "Ma'am, you're currently live streaming what could become evidence in a legal proceeding. I'd recommend consulting with an attorney before making any additional statements." That shut her up. Jason was frantically scrolling through his phone. "I'm calling the police. This is harassment." "Please do," Victoria said. "We've already notified local law enforcement about the situation. Officer Martinez should be here shortly to oversee the delivery of these documents." Right on cue, an Austin PD cruiser pulled up behind the Escalades. The police officer was professional, calm. He reviewed the legal documents, checked identification, confirmed that everything was properly served. Jason kept insisting there was a mistake, that he owned the house, that this was all some elaborate scam. The officer asked to see Jason's deed. Jason ran inside, came back with the paperwork I'd seen before. The officer looked it over, showed it to Victoria. "Sir," the officer said, "this deed is for Lot 7, the guest house. This document doesn't give you any claim to the main residence. But we've been living here for 3 years, without permission from the legal owner." "That's called squatting." Brittany had stopped filming. The reality was sinking in. Victoria pulled out one more document. "This is a bill for unauthorized improvements made to Wilson Properties Group land. Total cost of restoration and legal fees, $89,400. $89,000? Jason's voice cracked. "Custom kitchen renovation without permits, $32,000. Deck addition without permits, $18,000. Interior modifications without permits, $23,000. Legal fees and administrative costs, $16,400. I watched from my porch, sipping my coffee, not saying a word. "You can't do this," Brittany said. "We have followers. We have influence. People will hear about this." Victoria nodded toward Brittany's phone. "You've been live streaming this entire interaction to—" She paused, glanced at the screen. "To 47,000 viewers. I'm sure they will hear about it." The officer handed Jason his copies of all the paperwork. "Sir, you have 30 days to vacate the main residence. The guest house is not affected by this notice." After they left, Jason stormed over to my porch. "Dad, what the hell is going on? Who are these people? What is Wilson Properties Group?" I set down my coffee cup. "You might want to Google that." "Don't play games with me. This is serious." "Yes, it is." Brittany was behind him, no longer filming, makeup smeared from crying. "We trusted you. We let you live here for free, and this is how you repay us." "I've never lived here for free," I said quietly. "I've paid utilities. I've maintained this property. I've fixed everything that's broken." "That doesn't give you the right to sick lawyers on us." I stood up slowly. "Jason, do you still have that business card Victoria gave you?" He looked down at the card in his hand. "Wilson Properties Group. Victoria Anderson, attorney." "What does this have to do with anything?" "Read the name at the bottom." Jason squinted. "Wilson Properties Group. Michael Wilson, CEO." He looked up at me. "So?" "Michael Wilson is my brother." The color drained from his face. "And this," I gestured around the entire development, "is all his property." That evening, Jason came back. No cameras this time. No Brittany. Just him, standing on my porch, holding his phone. "I Googled Wilson Properties Group," he said. "And? $3.8 billion in assets, 624 properties across 12 states. Forbes listed your brother as one of the top 50 real estate developers in America." I nodded. "He's done well for himself." "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" "Tell you what?" "That your brother is a billionaire." I went back to reading my book. "Michael's success isn't my business to share." "But this is insane. You've been living in a guest house while your brother owns a real estate empire." "I've been living quietly, the way I prefer to live." Jason sat down on my porch steps uninvited. "Okay, but this changes everything. You could have been living anywhere. You could have had any house you wanted." "I had the house I wanted. This one." "But Dad, don't you see how this looks? We didn't know. If we'd known who you were connected to, we never would have. Brittany never would have said those things." I looked at him over my book. "So you would have treated me with respect if you'd known I had money?" "That's not what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant." Jason pulled out his phone.
showed me the screen. Look at this. Brittany's live stream from this morning has 2.3 million views. The clips are everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, we're getting destroyed in the comments. I glanced at his phone. The video title was Crazy Legal Ambush on Live Stream. The thumbnail showed Brittany crying, with giant red arrows pointing at the lawyers.
Maybe you shouldn't have live-streamed a legal proceeding, I said. We didn't know it was going to be a legal proceeding. We thought it was going to be our normal Monday morning content. And what was that content going to be about? Jason looked uncomfortable. We were going to announce that we'd finalized the paperwork for you to move to that senior community. We thought it would be a positive story about boundaries and fresh starts. You already put me in a senior community. We made some calls, found a really nice place, affordable. We were going to surprise you. I closed my book. Jason, let me ask you something. Do you know what I did for a living? You were a contractor. For 34 years, I built houses. Custom homes for wealthy families all over Austin. Some of my houses sold for $2-3 million. Okay. Do you know why I chose to live in a guest house after your mother died, instead of buying some mansion? Jason shook his head. Because after Margaret passed, I didn't want to live in a big empty house. I wanted to live somewhere small and quiet where I could take care of things with my hands, where I could feel useful. I stood up, went to my kitchen, came back with a photo. Margaret and me at the groundbreaking ceremony for this development, 2018. Both of us in hard hats, shovels in our hands, Michael standing between us in a suit. Your mother and I were the first people to break ground here. We were going to build our retirement home on this land. She died before we could start construction. Jason stared at the photo. Michael offered me any house I wanted, any city, any state. I chose to build this guest house because I wanted to be close to where Margaret and I planned to spend our golden years. Dad, I didn't know. You didn't ask. Jason's phone buzzed. A text from Brittany. The story is trending nationwide, #guestHouseGrandpa. We're getting interview requests. She wants to do damage control, Jason said. Maybe go on some podcasts, tell our side of the story. What's your side of the story? That we didn't know. That if we'd known the truth, everything would have been different. I handed him back the photo. Jason, the truth is that you tried to evict your father for content. The fact that it backfired doesn't change what you intended to do. Jason put his head in his hands. What do we do now? You have 29 days to find somewhere else to live. And then what? And then you figure out who you want to be when nobody's watching. Tuesday morning, September 17th, Brittany went into full damage control mode. She posted a 12-minute TikTok video titled The Truth About Yesterday's Legal Ambush. Perfect lighting, perfectly styled hair, sitting in their minimalist living room with tissues strategically placed in frame. Taylor family, I'm heartbroken that I even have to make this video, she began, her voice shaky but determined. What you witnessed yesterday was elder abuse, corporate bullying, and an attack on small creators who are just trying to build something beautiful. The video got 1.7 million views in 6 hours. Some of you are asking how this could happen, how a sweet old man could suddenly have access to this kind of legal power. And the answer is that this isn't about justice. This is about money, big money, the kind of money that can buy lawyers and intimidate families. She was good at this, I had to admit that. She knew exactly how to frame the narrative. Jim Wilson's brother is apparently some kind of real estate mogul. We had no idea. Jim never told us. For 3 years he let us believe we were helping him, taking care of him, giving him a place to live after his wife died. The comments were flowing fast. I knew something was fishy. Rich people are the worst. Justice for Brittany and Jason. But other comments were pushing back. Wait, they were trying to evict him? He built their kitchen for free. This doesn't add up. By afternoon, Brittany had launched a GoFundMe page. Help us fight corporate bullying. Goal of $50,000 for legal fees. The description painted them as David fighting Goliath, young entrepreneurs being crushed by billionaire interests. The fund raised $73,000 in 18 hours. Local news picked up the story. Channel 8 ran a segment called Influencers versus Real Estate Empire, a family feud goes viral. They interviewed Brittany via video call, tears streaming down her face as she talked about fighting for small creators everywhere. But the internet is a funny thing. Once people start digging, they find everything. Reddit users began connecting dots. Someone found the original live stream from last Thursday. The one where Brittany had called me a freeloader and mocked my Depression-era mindset. Another user found older videos where they joked about Grandpa Jim the handyman. Screenshots started circulating. Brittany's old Instagram posts showing off the custom kitchen, always tagged with #blessed and #dreamhome, never mentioning that the handyman was Jason's father. A TikTok user with 2 million followers made a response video. Let me get this straight. They lived rent-free on his family's property for 3 years, made him do unpaid labor, mocked him on live stream, tried to force him into a nursing home, and now they're the victims? The hashtag shifted. #guesthouse. Grandpa became #justice. For Grandpa Jim, property records surfaced. Public documents showing Wilson Properties Group's 2018 purchase. Building permits listing James Wilson as the contractor for kitchen and deck renovations.
Venmo screenshots that someone leaked showing Jason charging me $200 a month for utilities and maintenance for my own guest house. Wednesday evening, a local real estate blogger published a deep dive investigation. The Cedar Ridge development. What really happened? The article included a timeline of the property purchase, details about Wilson Properties Group's portfolio, interviews with neighbors who confirmed I'd been doing maintenance work for years, analysis of the building permits and property improvements, screenshots of social media posts showing the progression from beloved Grandpa Jim to freeloader. The blogger's conclusion, this appears to be a case of adult children exploiting an elderly parent's labor and generosity, then attempting to evict him when his presence became inconvenient for their social media brand. By Thursday, the story had reached national outlets. A segment on CNN's morning show. An article in the Washington Post about influencer culture and family exploitation, a trending topic on Twitter with over 200,000 posts. The GoFundMe comments section became a battleground. These people are disgusting, using their followers to fund their greed. The old man was living for free and they're the bad guys? Did you all even read the property records? He literally built their kitchen. This is why I don't trust influencers. Friday morning, GoFundMe shut down the campaign. Violation of terms of service, misleading or fraudulent fundraising. All $73,000 was refunded to donors. Brittany posted a furious response video. This is exactly what we're talking about. When you have billions of dollars, you can shut down anything that threatens your narrative. This is corruption at the highest level. But the comments on that video told a different story. Girl, you got caught. Maybe don't live stream elder abuse next time. L plus ratio plus you're not the victim here. Grandpa Jim deserves better. The court of public opinion had rendered its verdict. Jason and Brittany had gone from sympathetic victims to cautionary tale in less than a week. But I had a feeling they weren't done fighting yet. Saturday morning, I sat at my kitchen table with 3 years' worth of documentation spread out before me. Michael had asked for everything, every receipt, every photo, every piece of evidence showing what I'd contributed to this property. The numbers were staggering. Kitchen renovation, custom cabinets, granite countertops, professional-grade appliances, undermount lighting. Materials, $18,400. Labor at contractor rates, $32,000. Total value, $50,400. Deck construction, cedar planking, composite railings, built-in benches, pergola with climbing vines. Materials, $8,900. Labor, $15,000. Total, $23,900. Interior improvements, built-in entertainment center, crown molding throughout, custom closet systems, bathroom renovations. Materials, $12,300. Labor, $28,000. Total, $40,300. Grounds maintenance, landscape design, irrigation system, walkway construction, tree planting, and care. 3 years of materials and labor, $31,800. Property maintenance, roof repairs, HVAC servicing, plumbing updates, electrical work, exterior painting. 3 years total, $22,100. Grand total of my contributions, $168,500. That didn't include the intangible things. The nights I'd spent researching appliance specifications to get the best deals. The weekends I'd worked through thunderstorms to meet their filming deadlines. The times I'd rearranged my schedule so they could shoot content without my interrupting their aesthetic. But the documentation told another story too. One of exploitation disguised as family generosity. My phone contained 47 Ring doorbell recordings of Jason and Brittany mocking me to their friends. He's like a free handyman who just lives here. At least he's useful, I guess.
We should start charging him rent. Might motivate him to get his own place. I swear he does this stuff just to feel important. My Venmo account showed 36 requests from Jason over the past 18 months, each one for exactly $200, with notes like utilities share, maintenance fee, and guest house expenses. Total paid, $7,200 for the privilege of living in a house I'd built with my own hands. But the most damaging evidence was their own content. I'd been documenting it without even realizing it. Screenshots of Instagram posts where they'd shown off their custom kitchen. TikTok videos where they'd given home tours, describing features I'd built as their own brilliant design choices. Jason found this amazing cabinet hardware. Brittany's vision for this entertainment center was so inspired. We're so proud of how this space turned out, never once mentioning that their vision came with my 40 years of construction experience and my labor. The Ring camera had captured something else, too. A conversation from 3 weeks ago that I'd forgotten about. Jason and Brittany on the deck, planning their intervention. "We need to make it seem like we're doing him a favor," Jason said. "Right. Like this is about his well-being, not our brand," Brittany replied. "The senior community angle is perfect. We can spin it as wanting him to have friends his own age. And then we'll have the creative space we need. No more worrying about him wandering into shots. Think we should film it, like a documentary-style thing about setting healthy boundaries?" "Definitely. Content about difficult family situations always performs well." They'd planned to film my eviction, turn my displacement into content for their followers. Michael arrived Sunday evening to review everything. He sat at my kitchen table for 2 hours, going through each document, each photo, each piece of evidence. "James, this is," he shook his head, "this is systematic exploitation. They're my family. Family doesn't charge you rent to live in a house you built. Family doesn't mock your grief for content. Family doesn't plan to film your eviction." He held up the Venmo screenshots. "They charged you $7,000 to live in your own construction project, on property they don't even own. What happens now? Now we show them what accountability looks like." Michael pulled out his laptop, started typing. "Victoria is drafting a comprehensive legal response. We're not just defending against their narrative anymore. We're going on offense." "What kind of offense?" "Breach of verbal contract for unpaid labor. Fraud for charging you rent on property you don't own. Elder abuse for the systematic harassment and exploitation, and theft of services for the work you did under false pretenses." My stomach churned. "Michael, I don't want to destroy them. James, they tried to destroy you. They just weren't good enough at it." He closed the laptop. "Tomorrow is going to be interesting. They're planning some kind of big response. Brittany's been promoting a tell-all live stream for Monday afternoon. How do you know? Because we're monitoring their social media. This is business now, not family drama. And in business, you always know what your opponents are planning. Monday was going to change everything, and this time, I'd be ready." Monday, September 23rd, 11:47 a.m. Brittany had been promoting her emergency truth-telling live stream all weekend. The real story behind the legal attacks, she'd promised. Everything they don't want you to know. She'd set up her professional streaming equipment on the main house deck. Ring lights, multiple camera angles, wireless microphones. The full influencer arsenal. I watched from my porch as she did her pre-stream setup, checking lighting, adjusting angles, rehearsing her opening lines. Jason paced behind her, clearly nervous. At exactly noon, she went live. "Taylor family, thank you for being here during this incredibly difficult time," she began, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. "Today, I'm going to tell you everything. The truth about corporate bullying, elder manipulation, and what really happens when you try to set boundaries with family." The viewer count climbed rapidly. 15,000, 25,000, 50,000 people watching live. Some of you have been asking how Jim Wilson suddenly got access to this kind of legal power, and I've done some digging. His brother, Michael Wilson, isn't just a real estate developer. He's a billionaire who uses his wealth to silence anyone who threatens his family's image. She pulled out printed screenshots, held them up to the camera. These are public records showing Wilson Properties Group's history of aggressive legal tactics, evicting families, forcing out small businesses. This is what they do. 75,000 viewers now. Comments flowing so fast they were just a blur. "Jim Wilson lived on our property for 3 years, rent-free. We took care of him after his wife died because we believed in family loyalty. But apparently, family loyalty is a one-way street when your brother owns a billion-dollar empire."
That's when I heard the vehicles. Not the 3 Escalades from last Monday. This was different. A convoy of Tesla Model S sedans. 5 of them.
Moving slowly up Cedar Ridge Drive like a presidential motorcade, Brittany noticed the commotion. "Hold on, Taylor family. Something's happening." She turned her camera toward the street. The viewer count was now 89,000 and climbing. The lead Tesla parked directly in front of the main house. The passenger door opened, and Michael Wilson stepped out. Even from my porch, I could see Brittany's face go pale. Michael looked exactly like what he was, a billionaire CEO who'd driven straight from a board meeting. Navy suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. Italian leather shoes, the kind of confidence that comes from owning half of Austin. Behind him, 4 more people emerged from the other vehicles, Victoria Anderson and her legal team, a woman with a tablet who looked like a PR specialist, a man with a professional camera. "Oh my God," Brittany whispered into her microphone. "They're here. The billionaire brother is actually here."
Michael walked directly to the deck. No hesitation, no introduction. He looked at Brittany's setup, the ring lights, the cameras, the professional streaming equipment. "Miss Wilson," he said, his voice carried easily across the property, "I understand you're live streaming. Yes, this is public property. I have the right to... Actually, this is private property, my property, but please continue. I'd like to address your audience." Brittany looked at Jason, who was frozen behind the cameras. The viewer count hit 127,000. Michael stepped into frame. Not awkwardly, not like someone uncomfortable with cameras, like someone who'd given congressional testimony and shareholder presentations. "Good afternoon," he said, looking directly into Brittany's camera. "I'm Michael Wilson, CEO of Wilson Properties Group. I'd like to correct some misinformation that's been circulating about my brother James and our family's property." He pulled out a leather portfolio. "This is the deed for Cedar Ridge Development, purchased by Wilson Properties Group on March 15, 2018 for $14.8 million. All 38 acres, including 12 luxury homes and common areas." Brittany tried to interrupt, but Jason has a deed. Mr. Jason Wilson has a deed for Lot 7, the guest house, a quarter-acre plot that his grandparents sold him for $75,000 in 2019. This deed does not include the main residence. Michael turned to Jason. "Sir, may I see your deed?" Jason fumbled through a folder, handed over the document with shaking hands. Michael examined it briefly, then held it up to the camera. "As you can see, this deed clearly states Lot 7, Cedar Ridge Development. Lot 7 is the guest house. The main residence sits on Lots 1 through 6, which have always been owned by Wilson Properties Group." The chat was exploding. Screenshots, recordings, people frantically trying to process what they were seeing. "Now," Michael continued, "Miss Wilson has been telling you that my brother James lived here rent-free for 3 years. Let me share some documentation." Victoria Anderson stepped forward with another portfolio. "These are receipts showing $168,500 worth of improvements Mr. James Wilson made to this property between 2021 and 2024. Kitchen renovation, deck construction, grounds maintenance, electrical and plumbing work." Michael nodded. "My brother is a licensed contractor with 40 years of experience. Every improvement he made increased the value of our property. He wasn't living here for free. He was providing skilled labor in exchange for residence." Brittany found her voice. "But he never told us. We didn't know about Wilson Properties Group. Why would he need to tell you? You don't own this property. You've been living here without a lease, without permission, and without any legal right to occupancy." The comment section was brutal. "They've been squatting for 3 years, so they were the freeloaders? This is insane. Grandpa Jim was paying them to live in his house." Michael pulled out his phone. "I'd like to play something for your audience." The Ring doorbell recording. Crystal clear audio of Jason and Brittany planning my eviction, talking about filming it for content, joking about my Depression-era mindset. The live stream chat went silent for about 10 seconds, then erupted. "Miss Wilson," Michael continued, "you've raised $73,000 claiming to be victims of corporate bullying, but you were planning to film my brother's eviction for social media content." Brittany was crying now. Real tears, not the performed emotion from her earlier videos. Furthermore, Victoria Anderson added, "Mr. James Wilson has documentation showing he paid Jason Wilson $7,200 over 18 months for utilities and maintenance on a property Jason doesn't own. That's fraud." Jason tried to speak. "We didn't know it was fraud. We thought..." "You thought you could exploit an elderly family member for content," Michael said. "You thought you could charge him rent to live in a house he built with his own hands." The PR specialist stepped forward. "We'll be releasing a comprehensive statement this afternoon, including all documentation, property records, and timeline of events. The full truth." Michael looked back at the camera one final time. "My brother James Wilson is 62 years old. He's a widower, a veteran contractor, and a man of dignity who chose to live quietly after his wife's death. Your attempt to exploit him for social media fame has failed." He gestured to the construction crews that had just arrived. "As of today, this property begins development into the Margaret Wilson Memorial Village, a senior living community named after my late sister-in-law. Construction starts immediately." Brittany's live stream was chaos. 127,000 people watching her life implode in real time. The comment section was moving so fast, it was unreadable. "Mr. Jason Wilson, Miss Brittany Wilson," Michael said formally, "you have 28 days remaining on your eviction notice. I suggest you use that time wisely." Michael walked back to his Tesla. The legal team followed. Construction crews began unloading equipment. Brittany ended the live stream. Within an hour, clips were everywhere. "Billionaire destroys influencer, scammers live." The most brutal takedown in social media history. When keeping it real goes wrong. The full live stream recording hit 5 million views by evening. Jason and Brittany had become a cautionary tale about the internet's memory and the danger of exploiting family for content. But for me, sitting on my porch that evening, it wasn't about revenge. It was about Margaret's last words. "Take care of our family." I finally understood what she meant. October 22nd, 1 month later. Jason and Brittany moved out with 3 days to spare on their eviction notice. They found a 2-bedroom apartment in East Austin. Both got regular jobs. Jason at a marketing firm, Brittany at a local boutique. Their influencer career was over. The numbers told the story. At Life with the Taylors lost 340,000 followers in 4 weeks, from 847,000 down to 507,000. Their engagement rates collapsed. Sponsors dropped them. The live stream had become the most watched downfall in influencer history. The GoFundMe scandal made national news. Brittany faced no criminal charges, but her reputation was permanently damaged. Every future employer would Google her name and find the story. Local news covered the Margaret Wilson Memorial Village groundbreaking. Michael and I cut the ribbon together, both wearing hard hats just like in the old photo with Margaret, 22 luxury apartments for senior living, with walking trails and a community center. I kept the guest house. Michael offered me a penthouse downtown, a beach house in California, anything I wanted. But I chose to stay. This is where Margaret and I planned our future, and this is where I'll honor her memory. Every Sunday, Michael and I have dinner together. We're rebuilding what we lost after Margaret's funeral. Family isn't just blood, it's choice, respect, and showing up when it matters. Last week I received a handwritten letter from Jason. 3 pages of apologies. Acknowledgement of mistakes. A request to talk when I'm ready. He'd realized, he wrote, that he'd been performing his life instead of living it. Brittany still hasn't reached out. The property is beautiful now. Construction crews working every day, building something meaningful. Visitors stop by to see the famous guest house from the viral videos. Some leave flowers at the memorial garden we planted for Margaret. Sometimes people ask if I regret calling Michael. If I wish I'd handled things differently. I don't regret protecting my dignity. I don't regret honoring my wife's memory. I don't regret teaching my son that respect isn't negotiable. The internet never forgets. But it does move on. Jason and Brittany learned that fame without substance is just noise. I learned that family loyalty has to flow both ways. Margaret would be proud of the village being built in her name, and she'd be proud that I finally learned to stand up for the family that stands up for me. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people show the world who they really are.